Hey guys, how's it going? Scott here from scottsbasslessons.com, and I'm here with another lesson for you. Now, this month, mid-December, we're going to be releasing a brand new course into the Academy called the Beginning Jazz Survival Guide. It will obviously include everything that you're going to need to know, walking bass lines, bosses, sambas, all the stuff that you need to know when you're first getting into jazz, because I know that a lot of players out there, Academy members and non-Academy members, want to get into jazz because they can see the benefits. The benefits are absolutely huge, because when you start learning walking bass lines and learning how to solo around jazz tunes, it can really open up the fretboard, And really, if I had to put the way I play now and can navigate around the fingerboard down to one thing, it would really be learning, walking bass lines and learning to solo over standards and stuff like that, because there's chords a lot of the time every 2 beats. It's not, C major for like 2 chords, and there's a lot of chords being thrown at you, and you need to be able to deal with that. And because of that, it just gets this into gear and really helps you learn all about, navigating around the fingerboard, navigating around chord changes and how that you're going to outline them as a bass player. And also, just the full picture really. So if you're not into jazz, don't worry, you don't have to be into jazz to study this stuff. It's just really beneficial if you do for your overall bass playing. Okay. So in this lesson, I'm going to share 10 key things that I think you should be thinking about if you want to go to a jazz jam session, okay? A jazz jam session. They're infamous, right? If you're starting with jazz, or even if you're a seasoned jazz player, at some point or another, you're either going to go to a jazz jam session, or you're going to want to go to a jazz jam session, because you can get in among other like-minded musicians, play with them, try the stuff in a real situation that you've been learning, and ultimately meet a load of other people as well that are going to, help you in your progression as a musician. So jazz or jam sessions in general are fantastic when it comes to, pushing your bass playing and your musicianship to the next level. But jazz jam sessions are just, they're fantastic because they're learning, because this stuff is hard. A lot of it is hard when you initially start. It really supercharges that, and it gives you somewhere to actually use the information that you're learning, and not just at home with a play along or something like that. Getting in among other like-minded musicians is super important. But, and there's a caveat to this, it can be really scary. It can be really scary turning up to a jazz jam session if you don't know what to expect. So in this lesson, or this video, it's a lesson. In this lesson, I'm going to give you my top 10 tips of what you need to know before you go to your first jazz jam session. Jazz session. So, jazz jam session. Get there in the end. Anyway, let's get into it. Okay, number 1 is learn the lingo, okay? Understand the terminology that people will be using on the bandstand, and also the flow of what happens when you go to a jazz jam session, okay? So for instance, a really important thing to understand is when you play a song at a jam session, essentially 99% of the time it goes head, solos, trading, possibly, and I'll talk about what trading is, head, and then an outro, okay? And there's possibly an intro as well. Sometimes there's a tag on the end, but generally it's head, solos, trading sometimes. We'll talk about that in 1 second. And then the head again, and then sometimes some sort of tag or ending on there as well. And we're going to talk about endings later on in this video because it's a big deal. So what is a head? When somebody refers to playing the head, who's going to play the head? It means who's going to play the tune, okay? Who's going to play the melody, okay? So if you hear somebody saying, who's going to play the head, or you play the head, if it was so what, for instance, it's a lot of the time a bass melody. If somebody's turned to you and said, hey, let's do so what, do you want to take the head? That means, do you want to play the melody? So it's really important to understand what the head is. Now, the solos, after the melody's been played, after you go around the tune once, okay, then it goes into the solos. And that's where everybody takes a turn. Not everybody in the band has to do this, but generally, everybody takes a turn at soloing over the form of the song, okay? So if you played So What, everybody would solo over the form of the song. And when people solo, it might be, they might do 4 times round the form, or 6 times round the form, or sax plays 10 times round the form. Oh, you sax players, you love to solo, don't you? So you've got the head, which is the melody, okay? Then everybody takes a solo. You don't have to take a solo if you don't want, but it might be, you might be given the chance. We'll talk about that later on in this video. Then trading. Now, what trading is, it doesn't happen on every song, but, look out for it, because it could be, it could be called while you're in the middle of the tune. And generally, guys, this isn't discussed at the beginning of the tune, okay? It's thought that you will know that this might happen, or you'll at least be looking out for it, okay? So trading is where the soloist can trade fours with the drummer or with another member of the band. And trading fours means he's going to take 4 bars, then somebody else is going to, or he or she, they are going to take 4 bars, and then somebody else will take 4 bars. Then they will take 4 bars again, then somebody else will take 4 bars. So to see this in action, a lot of the time, it's, say we've got a sax player playing, okay, the sax player will play 4 bars, then the drummer will play 4, okay, and everybody's tacit while the drummer's kicking the hell out of his kit. Then the sax player plays 4 again, then the drummer plays 4. And this is around the form of the song that you're playing, okay? It's important to know. So while this is going on, it's really important that you keep track of where you are in the form, because every 4 bars, you're not going to be playing. And that's trading 4s. You can also trade 8s. You can also trade 2s. Some great Bill Evans records that I've listened to. Bill Evans, the keys player. He'll trade 8s to start with, then they'll trade 4s, then they'll trade 2s, and then on one album I've got, they almost trade like half a bar each, right? So that's what trading is. So again, let's recap. Head, then solos, then trading. Doesn't always happen, but it can do. Thought they got me. And then after that, it's back to the head. Okay, so they play the tune once round again, and then after that, you might have a tag that goes on the end or some sort of ending. Okay, and we're going to get to endings later on in this lesson. So just to recap again: head, solos, trading, and then head again. Okay, so number 2 is creating walking bass lines. You're going to need to be able to create a walking bass line before you go to a jazz jam session. It's going to be expected that you can create a walking bass line, okay? It doesn't have to be super fancy, but you need to be able to get around a walking bass line. So if we take something like Autumn Leaves, which is a standard that you should know if you're going to go to a jazz jam session, let's take the first 8 bars, okay? This is the first 8 bars, bar 1, bar 2, bar 3, bar 4, bar 5, bar 6, bar 7, and bar 8, okay? Now, it's just C minor. If you want to get the chords, just go to Google, write Autumn Leaves lead sheet in, and hit Google Images, and a zillion images of Autumn Leaves, the Autumn Leaves chords will come up for you, okay? So let's just look at using roots and fifths around this, okay? Root, fifth on the C minor, on the F7, root and fifth. On the B flat, root and fifth, root and fifth. On the E flat, root, fifth. Okay, and then it goes through A minor 7 flat 5, root 5 on the D, root 5. Okay, so you can create a walking bass line from roots and fifths. It's not going to be a super sexy walking bass line. It's not going to be. But you can still get around a walking bass line, just use roots and fifths. And once you get comfortable with that, throw in the thirds as well, and then the chromatics. What I'm talking about now is just getting you off the ground with it, okay? So let's just play a walking bass line around the first 8 bars of Autumn Leaves, with just roots and fifths. And 1, 2, 3, 4. That's just, it's got that vibe. It's got that vibe. You're not going to get thrown out of the building if you turn up and do that, right? Then you can add in thirds. Then chromatics. Okay, and then you're on. Then you're creating real walking bass lines. But this is just to get you by. So don't turn up to a jam session if you can't just get by with a simple walking bass line. Remember, it doesn't need to be super complex with loads of skips and things like that. But you need to be able to just get around a simple jazz standard with a walking bass line just to get through. Okay. Remember, it's more important to outline the changes and make a really good job of the rhythm than it is to play skips and all this fancy stuff. Okay. People want a really solid, nice walking bass line. That's what other musicians are looking for. Okay. So walking bass lines, super important. Okay, number 3 is that you'll need to know how to play some simple Latin style rhythms. So we've got the walking bass lines, but sometimes, you're going to have to play a straight style tune. So a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 1, a 2, not 1, 2, a 3, a 4. So it's straight. And a lot of the time, this will be either a bossa nova or a samba or, around that kind of style. And I turned up I actually got hired for a gig way back when I was in my early 20s. I'd never even heard of a bossa nova. And they were like, oh, it's a bossa style thing. And I was like, what? Anyway, so I'm here to, help you not get in the same situation. So with the bossa nova and the samba, the rhythms are different, but the bass, you can kind of get through just playing a similar style bass line. And a lot of it is root and fifth. So root, fifth. So boom, bum, bum, boom, boom, bum, bum. Let's just practice that rhythm. Okay, now what I'm doing there is just root, fifth, fifth. And remember, it's not ba, baby, it's boom, ba, 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 ba. That first note. Boom, ba, ba, bo, bo, is kind of cut short. Okay, faster. Okay, that's turned into more of a samba. Okay, now these aren't strict rules. You can mess around with it. Okay, you can mess around with it. Remember, when I say a jazz jam session, you're not going to really turn up and there's going to be, it's not like, a lot of the time it's not. It'd be different if you turned up at a Latin jazz jam session where them guys, like, they really know their stuff and you're going to be playing stuff that's very authentic. A general jazz jam session, okay, it's going to get you by if you can play that style of bass line around around whatever tune you're playing, okay? So it's important to know just how to get around a bossa or a samba around a tune and do somewhat of an authentic job of it. Okay, so number 4 is have a repertoire that you have learned, okay, and pick a tune that you know. Super important. Have a repertoire that you have learned. So you don't want to be turning up to a jazz jam session and somebody says, okay, what tunes do you want to do? Or what tunes do you know? And you say, none, right? And you don't want to be super reliant on real books. They're good. We're going to be talking about that soon, but they're not, you want to be learning repertoire. The heavy jazz players will know, way over 100 tunes, 200 tunes. They'll really know inside out, back to front. They'll know all these things. But we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about getting you ready for a jazz jam session. Okay. So when you turn up, I would say know some simple standards, right? And memorize them, have them memorized. So let's say, I'll just throw some names at you. The first ones that I'm going to throw out are swing style tunes. So like Autumn Leaves, okay? So not like Frank Sinatra swing, but like swing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you want to know like Autumn Leaves, All the Things You Are, Days of Wine and Roses, Stella by Starlight, There'll Never Be Another You. You, not like a you, like a sheep. Okay, you. There'll never be another you. Sorry, my bad sense of humour. I just pictured a sheep. There'll never be another you. Okay, so there'll never be another you. Solar, tune up. Gav's laughing behind there. I wonder if I've made any notes down here. Oh yeah, so Solar, tune up. Blue Bossa, which is a bossa, obviously. And that's a good one to start with. You're going to absolutely need to know a jazz blues. It's not like a normal 3-chord blues. It's a jazz blues, okay? Know and be able to play a jazz blues in a few different key signatures. Absolutely know a minor blues in a few different key signatures, okay? They're not the same. So you'll need to know a jazz blues and a minor jazz blues. Okay, so that's the kind of standardy type things, okay, that you'll need to know. And standard, I don't mean standard is in sort of like the average. I mean the standard is in sort of like jazz standards. It'll be beneficial if you know some funk standards. Okay. Now these would be tunes such as Chameleon by Herbie Hancock. Great tune. Just such a great tune. So, Chameleon, The Chicken not by Jaco Pastorius. It was obviously made famous by Jaco, but it was by Pee Wee Ellis, I think. I'm not going to play it all. Anyway, so it's a great tune. The Chicken, right? Watermelon Man, also by Herbie Hancock. Anything else by Herbie Hancock? Cantaloupe Island by Herbie Hancock. Red Clay by Freddie Hubbard. I know this isn't kind of like a sort of funk one, but it's definitely someone I should have mentioned before. So What by Miles Davis, okay? The one that I played earlier in this lesson. Okay, So What? Because that's a great funk number as well. What a great tune. And then that's also Impressions as well. So it's Impressions by Coltrane, uses the same changes as So What. So that's, I've thrown some, make a list down what I've said. I'll make sure that I put the Gav or Denmark over there, puts the names of these on the actual video that you're watching as well. So you can note them down and you can you don't need to buy books for these guys. We're living in, the internet area now. If you just write the name of the tune and then lead sheet, then go to Google Images, click that, you'll just see a load of lead sheets for this that you'll be able to just, get them down and figure this stuff out. And also listen to the recordings as well. Listen to the recordings of those guys that recorded doing it, because it's just fantastic to hear those guys and how they interpreted them tunes originally as well. Super, super important. So just to wrap up this bit, repertoire, okay, super important. But I should also say, okay, try and pick a tune, if you're going to a jam session, try and pick a tune, it's beneficial because you'll be comfortable with it and it can be nerve-wracking. You can't always pick a tune that because somebody else might be picking the tunes, and there's certain things you can do about that, which we'll talk about later in this lesson. Okay, number 5 is if you don't know the tunes, okay, that you're going to be playing, one of these will be really beneficial. A real book, okay? So you should absolutely have a real book when you go into jazz jam sessions, because if you don't know the tunes, at least you'll have this to open up and use, okay? So this is the 6th edition of the, I can't remember who publishes this. Who publishes it? Who knows? You'll see it. Just write the real book 6th edition or the 5th edition. 5th edition is my favourite, but I've got the 6th edition. And there's some tunes missing out of this one, unfortunately, but not that many. But the 5th edition is a really good one. So there's this real book, and there is the new real book, which is also very cool. And, you know, they're a bit neater in here. Mercy, Mercy, Mercy. Joe Zaunel, what a great tune. Yeah, so have a real book and take it with you to the session. Be able to read the charts. That's a key thing. Obviously, it's all right turning up with a real book, but if you can't play the actual charts, the lead sheets in there, you're stuffed. So make sure that you can navigate around the actual chord chart. If you are an Academy member, we released a course specifically on how to read charts and navigate lead sheets 2 months ago. So it's in the course library. Gav's given me the yes, it's 2 months ago. So it's 2 months ago. It's a really helpful course. It's over 2 hours long, and it takes you through all the stuff that you need to know about navigating around the chart. Now, I'm not talking about reading music here. I'm on about reading charts and lead sheets. It's a different thing. Reading music, yeah, some people might be able to, might want to read music. Some people might not want to read music, and that depends on what your personal goals are. Reading lead sheets and charts, every musician should be able to do that. Every musician should be able to do that, okay? So it's really important. So if you are an Academy member, go check that out. It's in the course library, okay? So take a real book, and these two are great because the chords are they're pretty bang on, and you'll be really grateful of it. If you're on the bandstand and somebody says, "Hey, do you know this tune?" and you don't, but it's in the real book, whew, you're saved. Okay, let's talk about soloing for number 6, because if you remember right back when I was talking about the lingo, the knowing, first of all, we play the head, which is the tune, the melody, okay? Then there's the solos, okay? Somebody might look at you and be like, do you want a solo? And you might want a solo. So let's say we're playing over, let's take a simple standard like Autumn Leaves, because we were talking about before, okay? So we've got that. Oh. Okay, you're going to be soloing around those changes. So the first thing I want to say about soloing is just don't go hell for leather, okay? It's really try and be musical when you're soloing. And also, if it's over a standard like this, try and outline the changes. Always have that in your mind. If all of the band stopped, would the audience be able to hear the chord changes? Okay, so don't just look at the key center. Let's say, like Autumn Leaves, it's in B flat major or G minor, whichever way you look at it, okay? You don't just want to be... You can't hear any changes there, can you? Okay, you can't hear the changes. If you take the band away and just you are playing that solo, can hear the changes, okay? Not trying to be super flash or anything. I'm just trying to hear the changes. Honestly, it's harder to do that than be super flash sometimes. So many people are, try and outline the changes, then get to the flash stuff, okay, if you want to. Be able to outline those changes. All I'm doing is using the chord tones, some scale things thrown in, and a few chromatic notes. Down to the F, the B flat, to the E flat, to the A, to the D, to the G minor, to the C minor. I'm just using chord tones and a few chromatic passing notes to do that. I'm not, it's not crazy, but it'll be really beneficial because when people listen to you when you're playing the solo, it'll sound like you know what you're doing because you've actually outlining the changes as they go by and not just tearing over it in hope that that it sounds good, right? So outline the changes. Okay, so number 7 is related to number 6, soloing. Don't be afraid to say no to a solo. If you're playing a tune, in this case, let's say Walking Leaves. That's the first 8 bars there. If you're playing at that tempo and somebody looks at you and starts nodding, and they're nodding at you to indicate, yeah, you're going to take a solo, don't be afraid to say, no, it's cool. Don't be afraid to say that. Don't be forced into it. If they look at you and they're going, yeah, you're going to take a solo, don't be afraid to say no if you think it's going to be a train wreck and it's going to put you under immense pressure and you're going to lose your place and you're not going to know what to do and, man, I'm kind of holding this walking bass line together and, I don't know what. Don't be afraid to say no. It can be an intimidating thing being on that bandstand in a jam session. It's cool. Just say, no, you're okay. It's happened before. It's just because you might not have been put on the spot like that in the past. So you feel like you've got to take it because somebody's looking at you nodding like you're going to take it. Just say no, it's fine. Tons of people doing it. I've watched the best players in the world, okay, burning away playing this burning walking bass line. They get looked at, okay, and they're just like, no, it's cool. There's no shame there. It's like, no, it's cool. So don't be afraid to say no to solos if it makes you feel uncomfortable and like it's going to be a train wreck and you're going to fall off the wagon and all hell's going to break loose, okay? It's cool, okay? Just say no. Okay, number 8 is a super simple one, but is always forgotten. Be mindful of intros and outros, okay? So I said right at the beginning, we were talking about the lingo, head solos, trade in, head, outro or a tag. Be mindful of that. Keep your ears open. Try and identify, who in the band is kind of the band leader that you're going to follow. If it's not you, piano players a lot of the time take that role quite well because they've got, they're quite strong harmony wise, and also watch out for the sax players as well because they can lead you as well. So look out for the outros and look out for the intros. Don't always think about that middle section. The intros, a lot of the time, it could be the last 4 bars of the tune, okay? The last 4 bars of the head, or the last 8 bars, okay? That is often used to actually get you into it. Or sometimes just a simple 1-6-2-5-1 turnaround, and then you'll go into the head, okay? So you might vamp around a 1-6-2-5, and then you'll go into it. It's important to know that don't be ashamed either of asking what the intro is going to be, okay? I've seen so many bands at jam sessions where the tune starts and it's obvious that everybody's a little bit sketchy about, how they're starting the tune, okay? So don't be afraid of being the one that says, hey, are we just going to do like a 1-6-2-5 and then into the head, okay? We're just going to do a 1-6-2-5 as the intro and then into the head. Or are we just going to do a vamp and then into the head? Okay, don't be the guy, be afraid to be the guy who initiates that. And don't be afraid of asking either. Somebody's like, oh, they call out, like, bye bye Blackbird. Oh, wicked. What we're going to do for the intro? Boom, straight there. What we're going to do for the intro? Be that person that asks. Because all it's showing is that you damn well care about it being a great performance. It's not, it's not saying anything about you other than you actually care. So don't be afraid of asking about the intros and outros, but know the terminology, what a vamp is, okay? Just vamping on one chord. What a 1-6-2-5 turnaround is, a 1-6-2-5 in C major, C, A7, D minor, G7. You can use that as an intro. Understand the terminology for outros. Listen to jazz tunes and listen to what those guys do as well, okay? Super important. So be mindful of intros and outros. Do not forget about them. Okay, so number 9 is something we all do sometimes, and we should have our knuckles wrapped for it. Don't practice on the bandstand. right? Don't practice on the bandstand. It's not the place to practice. Practice at home. Try out all your stuff there. When you get on that bandstand, you want to be solid. You want to be playing great lines. You want to be doing stuff that, you just want to be laying it down. Don't get, it's cool to get close to the edge of the cliff, but make sure that you're not dangling over it, right? A great guitar player called Mike Walker told me that. And it was actually not on a gig that he told me that. He was giving me a lesson way back when I was early 20s. And I'm trying some stuff out, and he's like, dude, it's cool to go to the edge of the cliff in your playing and look over the edge, but don't hang yourself over it because you might fall down. It might be a train crash. Okay. So, lay it down. Don't practice on the gig. It's not the place to practice. Number 10 is nothing to do with playing bass or playing any instrument. It is be social. It's so easy to get to these jazz jam sessions and feel introverted, like you don't want to mix, but that is part of it. It's about meeting like-minded people. So make sure you're social. Ask for numbers. If you enjoy playing with somebody, ask for their number. Can I have your mobile number or your cell number? You call it in the US. Can I have your cell number so I can, give you a call? And, we might be able to get together in our own time and practice. There's where I live, there's a lot of plays where they call it a play, where they go around each of their houses and play. Don't be afraid to try and initiate that in your area as well, because it's cool to do, jam sessions and stuff like that, but it's cool to hook up outside of jam sessions and just practice together and play tunes and just have a cool time. So be social when you're on these jazz jam sessions. Be a cool person to hang around with. It's frightening how many great players there are, doing some great gigs. And when you meet them, you're like, wow, man, they're so cool to hang around with. A lot of the time, it's not an accident, right? They're doing great gigs because they are cool guys to hang around with. There's a lot of great bass players in the world, okay? There's a lot of great musicians, but those ones that are really great to hang around with, they'll float to the top and they'll do really great because people want to, it's not all about playing. It's sometimes a lot about the hang as well. So be a cool guy to hang around with, and it'll do you the world of good in your career, and your bass playing will benefit as well. Okay, so that's it for this lesson, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it and you're going to take this into consideration and get ready for your next jam session, jazz style. If you want to get into jazz and you actually want to get into it in a deep way, as I said at the beginning of this lesson, it can have a miraculous effect on your bass playing and your knowledge about moving around the fingerboard and using this stuff. It's not just to be used in jazz. All of this stuff is applicable over any style of music. What jazz does, it just essentially makes you study the real juicy stuff, which is applicable and usable really fast in other styles of music. So if you do want to get more into jazz, remember we're releasing a course in the academy. Okay, in the academy in just a couple of weeks' time, focused on this. I'm going to walk you step by step through all of the stuff that you're going to need to know. Okay, it's going to be called the Jazz Survival Guide. Me and names. The Jazz Bass Player Survival Guide, I think it's going to be called. It's going into the course library over in the Academy in a couple of weeks' time. So if you are an Academy member, make sure you look out for that. If you're not an Academy member, make sure you grab your 14-day free trial. You can grab a 14-day free trial. You can try out the entire thing, obviously, for 14 days for no cost at all, no risk. We've got obviously a full course library that you can, which is self-study. You go in there and dip into what you want. We've also got live stream sessions every Monday inside the Academy from some of the best bass educators on the planet. That is directly into your own home. You sit there with your bass and your can of beer or whatever you want to do, and learn from these guys. It's just it's something that's never been done before. And it just blows me away every time I think about it. So guys like Todd Johnson, Rufus Philpott, Phil Mann, Ariana Kapp, Rich Brown, Damien Erskine, all these guys are doing live streams every Monday for all the Academy members. So make sure you check those out if you are an Academy member. If you're not, grab your free trial, guys, and just check it out for 14 days. I absolutely promise you it will change your bass playing forever. It is the ultimate online bass school. Other than that, guys, take it easy, and as always, I'll see you in the shed. 2015 Kickstarter challenge. Hey everybody.
Hey.
Hey everybody.
Hi everybody. Hello all. Hello.